Welcome to the MSDW podcast. I'm Jason Gumpert, editor at MS Dynamics World. On this episode, I am talking automation and e-commerce with Patrick Fusarini and Rich Fowler of k-ecommerce, powered by MDF Commerce. E-commerce continues to be a segment in which B2B organizations bring complex requirements to the table. K-ecommerce is the sponsor of this episode, and Rich and Patrick tell me about what Dynamics 365 customers are demanding today when it comes to automating their commerce scenarios. Many scenarios are driven by the D365 users' own clients who want to be able to make their purchases with greater velocity and lower friction. And Patrick and Rich provide some examples of D365 customers who are making that happen with k-ecommerce. We also discuss the relationship between automation and better data insights and how partners can use that connection to improve outcomes further. And there's no shortage of challenges for D365 customers when it comes to the future of commerce, but Rich and Patrick share some suggestions on how to prioritize, how to improve automation, and how to create a commerce execution plan. All right, well, I am here with Patrick and Rich from k-ecommerce. Welcome to both of you. Can we maybe start by just having you introduce yourselves for our listeners? Patrick, do you want to go first?
Absolutely. So thanks as always, Jason. Patrick Fusarini from the k-ecommerce team, of course. I am a solution consultant. I have been in my role for 6 years now, helping businesses really understand the e-commerce world and understand how they can work with us to achieve any of their goals online, specifically in the Dynamics community, Microsoft Dynamics.
Excellent. Welcome. And Rich, welcome to you as well.
Thank you very much. Again, I appreciate everybody being here and appreciate the opportunity to have this podcast, Jason. So thank you. My name's Rich Fowler. Been in the Microsoft world for, let's call it 25 years. Been in the e-procurement world for most of that. I've been around for a while. My job at k-ecommerce is to work with the partners and help the partners help their customers. So we do that in a variety of ways, but that channel partner manager is the official title, but it really just means we help partners get things going.
It's really great to be able to chat with both of you again today. Really appreciate your perspective on some of the things that we want to get into. And the theme here really was to explore automation and how it relates to e-commerce, right? And so I wanted to start with maybe the big picture, like what does it mean to go from manual to automated processes when it comes to e-commerce and specifically within the context of Dynamics 365 customers? Can you kind of give me the overall view that if you have to start kind of sharing how you see it with a customer or with a partner even. Rich, how would you explore that topic?
Let's start first with talking about what k-ecommerce is. So we are the e-commerce platform for business to businesses, for lack of a better way to say it. You see the acronyms of B2B and B2C. A lot of people think, B2B, B2C, it doesn't matter. B2B, business to business. B2C, business to consumer. And to be completely frank about it, business to consumer is considerably less complex than business to business. What we find with the majority of our Microsoft Dynamics customers is they are business to business clients, and they work with the things that make business to business happen. It's about a $3 trillion industry in business to business right now. And they expect that to grow over the next 2 years. So business to business is a big deal. The other part of that is terrifying to a lot of people, but if you think about how we see the world and how we each interact with it, research has shown that 75% of business to business consumers, so business to business people doing business, distributors, manufacturers, wholesalers, that kind of thing, 75% of those people would prefer to work on an automated platform that does not require a salesperson or customer service agent in order to get their job done. That means that if you're not B2B, you're taking out 2-3/4 of your potential client base. You're making them uncomfortable. And we think about the apps that we all use on our phone in the B2C world. Now, we want to get it done. We want to get it done quickly. Things that make us annoyed are things like slow load time and inaccurate pricing and bad shipping information and uncertainties, which you just frankly can't have in business to business. If you're a distributor, a wholesaler, a manufacturer, and your customers who are maybe other distributors or sales reps or whomever need to get their orders placed, and they don't need to do it between 8 and 5 because they're working with their customers. They do it at 2 a.m. They do it at 5 a.m. They do it when your normal customer service rep isn't working. And that's where that automation, and we say automation, and while it's a great term, it's also a bad term because you can look at the literal definition of automation and say, well, that's just because, it's making something happen nobody had to touch. That means something different to every individual. Sometimes we talk about fully automated or automated just enough to somebody who's starting the crawl, walk, run analogy, somebody that's just starting off in the crawl phase. Just getting off a spreadsheet, being able to do it on, I'm using air quotes, automated platform where they can get their order placed and they didn't have to do anything other than put their order in one time. It's right, it's good, the pricing's good, and away it goes. That's automated. And for other folks, it's a lot more complicated than that, but it doesn't have to be. So automation means different things to different people, but it's absolutely critical when you talk about business to business e-commerce. And if you don't do it, you're going to be left behind. I don't know if that answered your question, Patrick. What did I not say in there?
No, I mean, from my perspective, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, Rich, in that it's important to, understand that when we talk about automation, there are so many aspects or branches that you can go into. And obviously, it's a word that we use quite heavily in most IT spaces these days. But what it really boils down to is a lot of micro processes that are done behind the scenes or done by, a system so that you don't have to. And you see that specifically when it comes to e-commerce, you see that, everywhere all the time. Like Rich said, I mean, that comes in the form of something simple that we might all relate to, like going to get a shipping cost. When you're talking about, let's say, the B2B world, it might not be so obvious to go, get pricing for these types of large shipments that you might do. You can think of a situation where you have to pack things onto in LTL or on the back of a truck, and you have to start figuring out what the cost would be because these are large pallets you're shipping out. In that scenario, if I want to go get pricing, I can either, manually go to my provider, go find out what the price would be for this specific situation as he's loading the dock or loading the truck and get it that way. Or we can use tools at our disposal to automate or calculate the cost of doing that. And that's really the concept, this idea where we're touching things less and we have to, allow people to actually do work outside of this scope of, we'll say, mundane or simple tasks that can be achieved through, more sophisticated platforms out there.
Then let's take it even further. So we talk about fully automated versus automated enough. But let's talk about all the people in that supply chain order. And I'm just going to call it a supply chain order, from the person from the end consumer that needs something to the rep that might be placing the order to the platform that's taking the order and integrating it into Dynamics and putting it in as a sales order and all of that. Start with the very first person, the person that needs to place the order. We want to automate something there. We can automate it through various tools that we offer, but things like quick order. Patrick, you want to talk a little bit about what the quick order and previous order things do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, a big thing in the B2B space would be, like Rich is saying, ordering off of past orders or ordering off of large order sheets, right? When you're talking about certain businesses, they're not ordering, little tchotchkes at the store, a couple of things here and there, building a two line item cart. They're looking to order, potentially hundreds of different items in a single order. And in this situation, it can be a very manual process. If you use the tools, let's say, that you would have at your disposal on Amazon, to name a big e-commerce system, it would take you a while to put 100 different items into the cart. If you have something like an order import tool, what Rich is referring to in the Order Express tool, essentially that allows you to build this kind of Excel spreadsheet of everything you want to order in an order form. And then from there, you can just import that sheet directly into the system, automating the add to cart functionality and essentially creating a shopping cart of hundreds of items with a single click, right? So that's one form of automation that I think is quite powerful. And it might not necessarily be the obvious, when you think of automating manual processes.
That's a great example. And one of the things it made me think of as you were both explaining that was that, well, two things. One is that automation is, it's very much relative to what you're coming from, like what your current state is. And it can be incremental, I suppose, based on the scenarios. And that it's also about, like, I guess another way of saying it is removing friction from known or understood processes. And that seems maybe to be a key element of it, right?
I think that there's definitely something important that you're mentioning there, which is, at the end of the day, we want to take the tasks that are very clearly defined and known and see how we can avoid having somebody do them every day, every time that they need it to be done. Right? We know, here's a kind of a simple example is we know that when I receive an order, I need to, let's say, for example, when somebody calls me on the phone to place an order, I have somebody answer the phone, go into my dynamic system and type up the order. That's a manual process, but we know the steps needed to automate that. And because we know the steps needed, we can decide to automate it and remove that individual from doing that task and put them on something more important or something that cannot be automated, right? So changing the tasks of certain individuals to be things that are more, I'll argue, important to the business by adding that human touch and letting them do the things that need judgment and analysis and things of that nature. I don't know if that made sense, but
yeah, it does. And it really leads me into what I wanted to get to next, which was, I guess, the idea of progression when it comes to, like, let's talk about Dynamics 365 solutions in particular, because that's obviously relevant here. But to me, one of the ideal sort of ways that a customer of an ERP system like a D365 solution progresses over time in a positive way is that they do find these ways to remove friction, to enhance what their capabilities of the system are, and to sort of progressively do that, right? As opposed to, big bang implementations or re-implementations, obviously, or less. Those would be more risky, more expensive. If you can incrementally improve and you have a platform that allows for that in an economical way, that seems to me to be kind of an ideal. And I think if you look, there's a bigger point, but if you look at where Microsoft seems to want to take their SaaS applications, into more agents and obviously more automation scenarios, that seems to be a good way to approach it, that you can keep building, keep improving, and be mindful of it. But that requires, and this is what I want to ask you. To me, it seems like it requires two things. One, that the customer is mindful of that and has an eye on what they can keep changing and improving, and that their partner is there to help them do that they have like a trusted guide, because often they can't do it themselves, right? At least not fully. So yeah, can either of you comment on that? I mean, Rich, maybe I'll bring you back in here. Does any of that ring true to you? And how do you tend to guide either customers or partners in your case on that type of incremental change?
I'd love to jump in there, number one. And number two, as you were speaking, I've got both hands in the air screaming, preach, brother, preach.
Me too.
That is exactly the answer. So as you start from that, you talk about where Microsoft is going. How does the customer know where Microsoft is going? They don't. In general, really what they know is what the partner tells them. So the partner is a key component in the success of every implementation, whether that's Business Central, whether that's their e-commerce platform, whether that's their CRM, whatever they're doing inside their business. You mentioned the term trusted advisor. Their partner absolutely should be their trusted advisor. And their partner should be involved in absolutely any conversation that they have with anybody about their business process. I hear a lot, we're a partner first organization. So we always want to work with the partner and the customer. It doesn't cost the customer any more to do that. It's more hassle for us, but it's worth it because the partner is the key to making the whole thing work together. Now, the partner may not be the e-commerce expert. That's why we're here. That's why we have guys like Patrick and Rob and some of the other folks on our team that do it all so well. And I don't even pretend to get in their way because they're way smarter than me, and I'm okay with that. But the partner is there to be their expert on their business and their business process and all of the processes involved. It's a big picture thing. So the partner needs to know that, and the partner needs to be able to advise that, whether that's, business process improvement, that incremental step you're talking about. To me, and now I'll go too far into my history, I am certified in Business Central sales. So I know a bit about Business Central. I know how it works with things. And Business Central is constantly changing, constantly improving. There is a sales concept in Business Central. Some people use a solution selling model. Some people use other things. What what I have always found that's been very useful is when a partner specifically focuses on their vertical, and whatever vertical that may be, that doesn't matter. You've got to focus on the vertical for a variety of reasons. But the big reason here that it matters in the challenger sales concept is if they know their vertical, they're already an expert in that vertical. Their client base is going to be in that vertical, and they're already going to know a lot of the things inside that vertical that this customer may be experiencing, or more importantly, may yet to experience if they make a misstep. So the partner is there to help them not make that misstep, to avoid the potholes and the roadblocks that may jump up along the way. And I hear this with a lot of partners as we talk to them, and a lot of customers as well. The verticalized challenger sale partner comes in, and yes, they're asking about the business process and how they do things, and they're doing the requirements and that kind of thing. But they're not asking, tell me about your business. I know nothing. How do you do things? That is less valuable than a partner who knows the vertical and knows the space and knows what they do and can go in and say, yeah, I do want to know all of that, but I'm going to assume I know a little bit. And here are the things we want to watch out for as we go through this process. That kind of a partner can be invaluable to a customer. You used the term, find them where they're coming from. If they're coming from no e-commerce system, then yes, they don't know anything, or they may not know much, but the partner and we are there to make sure that we can help them avoid those roadblocks. And for the customer that may be coming off of, I don't want to call it a bad e-commerce system, because that's not necessarily fair. What we find is a lot of people will go in and they'll see the cool ads on the Super Bowl and say, oh, I'm going to drop that in because it'll fit with my Etsy site. Well, let's be frank. You're not an Etsy site. You're a business to business, multi-million-dollar organization. And what works for the Etsy site's likely not going to work for you, because you're far more complex. And that's what the partner has to convey back to the customer. And the partner and we will go in and explain that to them and make sure that we're asking the right questions, getting the right answers, to Patrick's point, finding the right data so that that data can be used to make process improvements throughout the business, not just in the e-commerce side, but that e-commerce touches everything from order processing to invoicing to everything else. And the partner's key. Long way to say that. Sorry.
I mean, I'll just add to exactly what you're saying, Rich, and I 100% agree with everything you said. I think that, let's say, to put an analogy in play here, when you have, let's say you're running a business, you want to implement something, you've got different departments. One is expert in marketing, another one's expert in sales, another one in IT, all these services, I don't know, depending on what your business is, manufacturing, you name it. You have all these different departments with people who are experts in those fields, understand that side of the business, and are able to hopefully have all those departments get together, work together, and figure out what's best for the organization as a whole. Now, comparatively, when you're looking at, let's say your IT space, let's say your Dynamics or your e-commerce system, it's the same idea. You have the partner who is an expert in Dynamics. They know that system. They might not know everything about your business, but that's where you establish a trust and connection, and they learn about how your business operates to give you suggestions that work for you. You have an e-commerce partner, hopefully, someone or a team who can assist and knows their e-commerce platform really well. They know what you do and where you want to go, and they can be the ones that suggest what would work for their situation using their system. And then you have, obviously, the organization who is an expert in what they do. They know where they want to go. They're driving the ship, and they have to communicate that to the parties involved in order to get something that works, right? And that's kind of the idea when you talk about partnerships. The key here for me, I've had the opportunity to see lots of businesses go through our organization and really had the opportunity to talk to, hundreds and hundreds of businesses over the years and see how they operate. I really find that the ones that are most successful are the ones that, have that collaboration between the partner, between the e-commerce vendor, and between themselves to get a really good understanding of what it is, in the same way that they might have collaboration between their individual departments of that organization.
I'm going to jump on that just a little bit too. So you hit the nail on the head. You talk about partnerships and long-term partnerships. I'll throw some more industry information out. In the big picture of the e-commerce world, and this is B2B and a little bit of B2C, the average customer replatforms their e-commerce every 18 months. That's, as Jason said, that can be a cost, that can be a pain, that can be a lot of friction. And why do they replatform? Well, sometimes they chose badly. They chose a bad fit. Whatever the case may be, but every 18 months is the average in the industry for replatforming your e-commerce. For k-ecommerce and our business-to-business customers, our average is just under 10 years. So there is a difference when you work with a trusted advisor in your partner and in your e-commerce partner. Work as a partnership and things go more smoothly. Things tend to cost less in the long term, and your ROI is faster and higher. Always push partners.
All right, excellent. Well, I wanted to also dive in here to maybe talk a little more specifically about some capabilities and automation scenarios. Perhaps I think you both hinted at a couple or mentioned a couple that sound really interesting, but I was hoping we could maybe get into some that are top of mind for you. So are there particular scenarios where k-ecommerce is working with Dynamics 365 customers to really bring some of the latest and greatest capabilities to bear? Are there any that you would mention, today that are top of mind?
Really good question. Really important topic. I'll say this. Yes, there's always features. I can go through some of those here in a minute, but even there, kind of going back to what we were just mentioning, which is a good segue. At least we at k-ecommerce are not necessarily the type to just say, hey, look at all these amazing bells and whistles. We're the type to say, well, let's get to know your business and understand what's important to you. And I'll show you the bells and whistles that are appropriate for your situation and how they might help you. Right. So in that approach, I'll say when it comes to features and functionality that really breed success, every company might have different ones. Now, there are a few outliers that are pretty consistent throughout the board, which I can talk about. And those are, I'll say, the foundational pieces to different businesses' success. Right. So the first one for me, arguably one of the most important personally, is going to be product-specific catalogs, what we call in our system secure catalogs. And the idea, very simply, is something that you don't necessarily find in all the e-commerce platforms out there. You'll find them in business-to-business specific ones, right? So if you're doing B2C, this is not a concept. The idea is that different customers that you do business with can potentially buy different products from you, right? So that means two organizations that shop on your store online might see very different products available in the system when they try and search. And that's all strategically done in an effort to allow the customer to, let's say, not make mistakes or buy the equipment or things that they specifically need for their business, right? Now, I'll give you an example. We have an organization that sells pop syrups, right? So you go to like a restaurant or a bar and they sell, different pop. So we'll call it like, 7-Up, Coca-Cola, not to pick sides.
In case anyone was wondering what pop is. That doesn't.
Only in the Midwest. Everybody else calls it soda.
Oh, do they? Okay. So
the old school Boston version is tonic, but go, yeah.
So in Canada, we call it soda as well, but I wasn't sure. So there you go. All that to say, this organization sells these syrups and they go replenish these syrups at different organizations. But obviously the bars and restaurants, the people that are ordering these things have a very specific list of what they can order, right? They can't just order anything on the menu. Mm-hmm. They have like their fixed offering. And so they would essentially have to order those specific syrups. All that to say that when their different customers log into their portal, they're only able to see or purchase the syrups that are specific to that bar or restaurant or, franchise or you name it. So it makes it very easy and error-free to deal with those types of errors because they don't exist, essentially, right? Whereas a different customer that might log in from a different bar or restaurant would potentially see a totally different list of soda or pop on the screen to make sure that they can buy what's appropriate for them, right? So this, I'll say, simple concept of offering different customers different products is one of the main pillars that you would lean on for a proper business-to-business e-commerce platform.
And if we break that down just to take it back to the end user, think about that bar or restaurant or movie theater or whatever. The replenishment manager or the theater manager or whomever is getting off work after the last showing at 2 a.m. They've got to do their replenishment. They've got a big blockbuster coming up this weekend, and they need to make sure that they've got 85 gallons of Diet Coke syrup waiting. The things that matter in there. Do you have it available? Do you have it in their pricing? Can they see current inventory stock levels? Can they confirm shipping? All of those things matter to this person that's trying to place the order and buy from you. And if you can't answer those questions, and by you, I mean, if your e-commerce platform can't answer those questions for that person who's trying to give you money at 2:30 in the morning, they're going to your competition. And that's what we're trying to prevent. So that's where when we talk automation, to me, that's automation. Because if I can get this done and get it out of the way, that theater manager goes home at 2:30, sleeps till noon, knowing full well that their 85 gallons of Diet Coke syrup is going to be in the machines come Friday afternoon for the blockbuster weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, someone did an impulse buy birch beer this week, as opposed to regular cola or whatever.
Exactly. Well, that's exactly it, right? Your labels on your dispensers say, Coca-Cola, but yet what's coming out of it is not necessarily that. So one more point I definitely need to add, and as I said, I can talk all day specifically about this topic for, just features and functionality as to how they can improve an e-commerce business. The one that I think I'll stick to for today's session is the idea of the integration itself, right? Obviously, at k-ecommerce, we work very closely with the Microsoft Dynamics community. And so we integrate directly into the ERP systems, or the two primary ones, obviously Business Central and Finance and Operations, right? So that means that when it comes to, from a feature standpoint, our integration, touches so many different areas and fields of Business Central that allow us, most importantly, to automate the process of order taking through the e-commerce store. So without getting too much into the details here, and we kind of mentioned the automation piece before, the integration that we provide between the e-commerce store and Business Central or Finance and Operations or Dynamics is that it allows us to take all of that key data that we're working on a regular basis and we're constantly updating in the ERP and putting it online without having to worry about whether or not it's there, right? That concept of I changed a price or I got a new price list this year in Business Central and I just uploaded it, and worrying about whether or not that price has been updated on my online store doesn't exist. As soon as those changes are made in Dynamics, they will be available and online within the k-ecommerce platform for your customers to take advantage of. And that goes well beyond, obviously, prices. That goes into all sorts of different areas and fields. The connections are vast, but that gives you a general idea as to probably and arguably the most important feature as to what makes us a strong business-to-business platform is this idea, once again, that you have one single source of information that you're leveraging throughout different areas of your business.
That was exactly where I was going to go. I'm taking notes as you're speaking. I think that is our most important feature in the feature and functionality side is that, and I'm just going to lay it out, the pre-built, pre-tested, and already proven integration into the Dynamics platforms. You hear a lot of folks say, well, yeah, we can integrate, or I can write something that'll integrate. That's one thing. And they're probably correct. But the difference is the pre-built, pre-tested, already proven integration that we have that's already out on AppSource and means it's been validated by Microsoft. It has gone through all of the checks. And it means that you as the partner and you as the customer also don't worry about it when Microsoft makes a change or makes an update to Dynamics. You're good because that's one of the requirements for those pre-built, pre-tested, proven integrations in AppSource is you've got to be there. So that doesn't exist when somebody says, I'll write you an API. There's so many things we've all dealt with the customers who, the guy that wrote this system is retiring, got hit by a bus, won the lottery, pick your analogy. And then that causes headaches, heartaches, and a lot of cost for the customer. Your safe bet is the pre-built, pre-tested, proven integration into Dynamics that's already there. And it's not a little thing. A lot of people forget that that's a big thing because we're all focused on the bells and whistles and the things that look cool. And those are fabulous, yes. But the blocking and tackling, if you If you're not doing the basics, and if you're not doing the basics exceptionally well, then the flash doesn't matter.
Agree. You have to trademark that term, I think.
Oh, you think? I might have stolen it from somebody. I probably
Oh, really?
can't.
Couldn't agree more. That really, I mean, you said it best. The foundation needs to be there, and then you can think of supplementing with all the additional pieces. But once the foundation is there, which is, operating your business efficiently by not having to worry and actually touch things multiple times, that's really where you start to see, or I say businesses or organizations start to see the benefits of having this type of system.
Can you give some examples of some of the analytics or data findings that customers get as a result of making some of these enhancements to their solutions?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, first and foremost, this is a big component. In one sentence, I would say, you're picking out of one hat. In a situation where you don't have an automated e-commerce platform or an integrated one, and it's kind of siloed off to the side, you have orders coming in from your sales reps over the phone. You have people, showing up to the floor, let's say. You've got your online store taking orders. You've got all these different systems in play. And yet you have to worry about putting all of those different orders from all of these different places into Dynamics. And really that's kind of one of the aspects, is really that you don't have to worry about that as much, because obviously the integration takes care of placing all of those orders into the system. And hopefully your other sales channels that exist also have that type of approach where they all go into a single source. And so really what that means is now you can leverage the system that you have envisioned as your main system for the company's running, the system that you obviously paid a little bit of money for in Dynamics, to take all of that data from all of these different places and use it for your business analysis. So right there, all the orders, what channels they came from, all the information about every single customer under your belt. You've got all of this data in one place. And if there's one thing I've learned over the past few years from, machine learning, from data in general and the importance of it, it's that the cleaner the data that you have, the easier it is to work with. Because it's one thing to have a ton of data, but if it's a big mess, nobody, yourselves, no computer in the world is going to be able to actually decipher the importance of that, right? So that's, for me, one of the big aspects, is keeping all of this information in a single place that's easy to read, easy to understand. And then from there, I would say you can leverage tools like Power BI and company to kind of make things happen and understand more about your business, what's operating well, what's operating less well, and where resources need to be spent in order to improve. I hope that answers your question.
I'll add to it, because yes, I think that answers the question well, and it gets very specific. I'm going to jump up a little bit of a level. And you mentioned one of the keys, which is Business Central. So you've got Business Central, all that data in Business Central. I'm going back to that whole Business Central certified thing. Business Central has an absolute metric ton of information in it. And the rule on data, if you've captured the data, you can use the data. And now you and your partner can determine, where do I want to use the data? How do I want to use the data? What output do I want to get from that data? And what decisions can we make? Can we make them faster, more efficiently, more effectively, make smarter decisions? All of that comes from data that you've got in Business Central. And Patrick mentioned Power BI. I love that. That's so much of a fun tool to play with. I'm a self-proclaimed data nerd. I'll stay up till 2:30 in the morning playing with data and go, oh, wow, I've got to be at work in a few hours. Okay, bad idea. But it's not hard to do in Power BI, because it's very user-friendly. And because all of that data is in Business Central, it's all coming, not all, but a lot of the things for your customers, your orders, your history, your payment, all of that's coming from your e-commerce system and being fed via that pre-built, pre-tested, proven integration right into Business Central. Your data's in Business Central. It's all there. And Business Central gives you all of the Power BI reports and all of the other things as part of the package that you can grab that data from. That integration, it's the golden triangle. It's your partner, it's Business Central, it's your e-commerce, all working together to get you the data that you need. That's part of it. Now, the other part that I'm going to go back to the front end of Jason's question was, can you tell us a little bit about some actual metrics? There are multiple case studies out on our website at k-ecommerce. I'll let Jason drop a note of that website in the show notes. That's great if you do that. But if not, we're happy to provide that for you, but I won't bother you with it here. There are two specifically. There's one case study from a company that, back to find them where they are. They had a bad fit e-com that they came from. And from that bad fit e-commerce platform to us, you can see the results. They had serious results, but the one that shows the fun numbers, and it's brand new and it's a great company, and they're, as Pat says, they're chill people to boot, so they're fun to deal with. It's a case study from Cat Sports, and it's up on our website. They started with no web presence. They didn't know what they didn't know. They got with us. They did the things they needed to do, and they saw results immediately. Their online orders, well, they went from 0 to 61% of their sales. They started to realize immediately what they were not getting. They didn't have customer service reps spending the days taking customer orders by phone or transcribing them off of faxes. And yes, I do mean faxes, and all the associated errors and hassles that come with that kind of stuff. Because let's face it, human error is there for a reason. That's why they call it human error. You eliminate the human error, you eliminate hassles, and that leaves the customer service reps available to do the things that matter, like Patrick said earlier, of personally getting in touch with those customers and partners and making sure that everybody has what they need. And now it's a customer service role, not a data entry role. The website started taking orders 24/7, 365, and they doubled their revenue in year one. Shortly after that, they had to add 2 more stores because they were able to verticalize and go bigger. So can you prove that this stuff works? Yeah, you get with the right partner, the right platform, this stuff does work. And take a look at those case studies to see it.
I'll maybe just add one final note here on them, because obviously I have had the pleasure of working with them. It's very interesting. Just going back to the data piece, I mean, you talk about 61% of their sales are now online. Obviously, you think of that in many aspects when you talk about the data. The first one is, well, okay, they had a growth in sales, but not necessarily always true. Maybe they just converted their in-person sales to online, right? So that's not a growth in overall revenue. It's a different sales channel for that percentage. But then, even if that is true, which I don't know, let's say part of that was growth and part of that was, switching sales channels. The reality is that the amount of effort and the cost per order when it comes to placing it online versus manually putting that in is an aspect where you really start to see, I'll say, savings from a business perspective, right? The idea that I don't have to pay somebody to sit there and boringly answer the phone and take orders via the phone and type those orders in, and potentially having a mistake in the order that I typed up because I didn't hear the customer properly or what have you. Those are all costly aspects of a business that can be removed and reduced by switching that customer to be able to place it online efficiently any time of day, and obviously error free, right? So that's just one of many aspects. And the other fun thing I'll say about them is that they went from obviously the initial situation where they were new to e-commerce. Now they operate multiple websites online, all with us, and they've kind of verticalized their offering so that they have multiple different brands that they sell. And instead of putting it all under one roof or one website, they've decided to brand these different, I'll say, branches separately. And so they have multiple websites, each dedicated to specific areas of their business. So they're able to do that using our system too, which is really nice because it shows, that level of growth of going from one website to like 4 or 5 different websites, all done through us and all kind of automated in that sense.
Yeah, and it evolved in a way that perhaps they wouldn't have even predicted they might have previously, right? Without those tools at their disposal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think maybe we can start to wrap it up there. I'd certainly love to get final thoughts from both of you. But, just my final thought is this conversation has been a lot of fun. And it also raises some great topics for perhaps a future conversation. One is, just this idea of what can be pre-built and what some of the sort of very common and repeated patterns are in these implementations that customers can learn from versus what's really custom, right? So I think that's a great topic. And I think this data conversation, we could definitely keep that one going for the future, especially with a data nerd like Rich. Maybe we can keep that going. But yeah, I mean, so many great points here. Anything else you wanted to leave us with?
For me, I mean, obviously always a lot of fun talking to you. I enjoy our conversations every time we have the chance to get together. I do think that when it comes to, this side of the business, obviously, like you said, data-wise, we could talk about that all day. The best success, I'll leave final notes on this. Best success, I would say, when it comes to people implementing an e-commerce platform. The unfortunate reality is that more often than sometimes, organizations will go through the route of an e-commerce provider that doesn't necessarily fit their business because we'll say it's a popular brand or they heard about it or they were unfortunately consulted to go that direction and it wasn't necessarily a good fit. And then they live in a situation where kind of what you were saying, it doesn't fit their business. It doesn't offer what they need. And ultimately they put a lot of time and energy and money into it only to rip it out in a few years to go to something that's a bit more streamlined. So the cost of learning might be a little bit high, but we see those types of situations, unfortunately, all the time where people tried this once, didn't work out, and then they realize now, let's get something maybe that is tried, true, and tested, and offers the core functionality that one might need in a way that we know absolutely works. So that's always an important piece, I'll say, of advice to anybody looking to go into the e-commerce space is to, as I said, evaluate your options, know where you want to go, and above all, surround yourself with partners and people that want to know more about your business and that are looking to uncover truths rather than just try and sell you something that might not necessarily understand or fit what you need.
I wouldn't change a bit of that. I'm always going to harp on the golden triangle. I'm going to harp on your partner is key to your success. Partners, we totally understand that. We are a partner-first organization. We do have a partner program, and the shameless sales pitch right there would be if you'd like to be part of that partner organization and partner program, please let me know. We will talk about how it makes sense and how it can be useful to you to build your dynamics practice, because that's what we're after. We want to make sure that the partner is using this to build their dynamics practice and go into that vertical side. We also have those opportunistic partners. I've got this one opportunity and this is what we need, and we'll certainly help with that as well. But for those partners that are looking to make it a business line and to be excellent at it, we're looking to partner with you. So yes, partner with us, partner with your partner. Use that pre-built, proven, tested, app source ready dynamics integration, because that's huge. It's just you can't say enough about the things that go bad when you don't have that. But you think about those things. And then our goal for the end user is to make it easy. We want to make it easy. I hear some people call it mailbox money. I want to go to the mailbox and see money rolling in. That's exactly what we're trying to do. Let the e-commerce platform work for you. That's your salesperson. That's your sales team. That's your sales channel. But let's make it work. So thank you, Jason. We appreciate the opportunity to be here. And Patrick shows, as always, why he's the smart one and why I just carry the heavy stuff.
You're too nice to me, Rich.
Well, it's always great to have both of you on. Thanks so much. This has been another episode of the MSTW podcast. My thanks once again to Rich and Patrick of k-ecommerce for joining me. We will put a link in the show notes to the case studies shared during the conversation today. And to learn more about k-ecommerce overall, visit them at k-ecommerce.com. And that's it for this episode. If you want to get in touch with me, you can send me an email, jason@msdynamicsworld.com. For all of our updates, please do follow us on LinkedIn. Until next time, this is MS Dynamics World, signing off.